Hey everybody, it's Jason from the Texas Gun Vault, and today I'm coming to you with another field strip video. And the gun we're going to be taking a look at is this 6.5-inch long slide 1911 made by Clark Custom. Now this gun was hand assembled by Jim Clark Sr. in the 1960s, and for the most part it will field strip like a standard 1911, however probably with a little bit more difficulty because the tolerances of this gun are a lot tighter, especially when it comes to the barrel bushing. But once we get the firearm apart, there's a few things I would like to show you, and one of which is how to authenticate these guns, because externally there is nothing that is stamped on them that would let you know when they were made and assembled and by whom. However, internally there are. So let's go ahead and field strip this gun by dropping the magazine and of course ensuring that there is no ammunition. We will then visually inspect the chamber, of course making sure there's no ammunition there as well. It looks like we are good. So now we will put the gun on safe, and we're going to go to the business end of the pistol. You're probably going to need a barrel bushing wrench for this. Normally on 1911s, I don't need that, but this barrel bushing is very, very tight. Push down on that, rotate the barrel bushing. Now be careful when we release the pressure here of this spring plug. Remove the spring plug. Now I would recommend at this point pulling out the recoil spring, because we're going to need to turn this bushing in the opposite direction now. And once it comes to the other side, it is now able to start being pushed out. So make sure you go all the way. You can try to do this with your hands, and I can get it to go a certain distance, and it's pretty darn tight as you can see. I might be able to get it out, and I think I can, but if you can't, one of the things I would recommend is to use a rawhide hammer. And it's important to use a rawhide hammer because the material of this is a lot softer than any metal that is on this gun. So you will not scratch or mar it or ding it in any way. So once you get the lug past where it would lock into the barrel, you can simply tap it out this way. And there is the barrel bushing. Now we will bring the slide back to the disassembly notch after taking off the safety. Right there. And now we can push through the slide stop, pull that out, and the slide will come off of the frame. And there is our frame, pretty much a standard 1911 A1. In fact, this one was made in 1945 by Remington Rand. We can now remove the recoil spring rod, and the barrel will come out the front of the slide just like a standard 1911. And that is a completely field stripped Clark Custom long slide, 6.5 inch. Now the 6 inches will also come apart exactly the same way. So let me go ahead and clean this up, and then I'll show you a few things about this pistol that you might want to know and see. Alright, so we have this pistol all oiled and cleaned up and ready to go back together, but before we do that I want to show you a couple things about this gun and how to authenticate them. Here on the bottom of the slide you will have a couple of markings. Sometimes it will have a single day code. In this case we have two. We have 475 and then we have 863. And the way the date codes work is the first digit is the month, the second two digits is the year, and the earlier the two codes is 863, which means this pistol was made in August of 1963. The 475 probably indicates that in April of 1975 this pistol came back in for service, repair, maintenance, or modification. There's also another mark here that says Clark, Shreveport, Louisiana, and that also indicates this slide was made by Jim Clark Sr. because that's where the company was located at the time. So all those stamps do indicate this is a Jim Clark Sr. long slide 1911. The other thing I want to show you is a little bit about the manufacture of this slide. Now, some companies that have made long slide 1911s would have made them from a single piece of steel. However, in this era, it would have been two slides that were put together. So this gun would have started off with a single 5-inch government length slide, and then this would have been the nose of another slide that was welded and then blended in. And we can kind of see a little bit about this process because when he put the two slides together, you can see the two slots for the original barrel bushing and the current barrel bushing that we use. You can kind of see it in there if I can get this into focus. Right in there. There you go. You can kind of see those two slots. Now, only the slot furthest away is currently used, but you can see where that original slot was on the original slide. And that's another way to authenticate that this slide was manufactured using that process. So I find that to be very interesting and a unique way of making these slides. All right, let's go ahead and put this pistol back together. We'll start with the slide and the barrel. We will put the barrel in through the front of the gun. This might be a little bit stiff because those tolerances are really tight. The next thing we're going to do is insert the barrel bushing. Make sure that lug is in the downward position. You might be able to put this in with your finger. As I said, this is really, really tight, or you might need to use the rawhide hammer and tap it in. And I was able to put it in with my thumb. We're now going to need that barrel bushing wrench to rotate it to the other side of the slide like that. So this opening will allow for the recoil spring to go through. We will now take the guide rod and the recoil spring, put those together, and put that in through the rear of the slide. We will now turn the slide over, make sure the link is in the downward position. We will put that onto the frame, and when that down link and the hole in the receiver line up, we will put the slide stop through, and we are aligned right there. Let's take the slide stop, put it through. Now be very careful here in that you want the slide stop to rest up against the frame, but right up against that detent. You don't want it to be too far to the bottom. You can put in what's called the idiot scratch. And when you insert this, you're going to push up and in, and you want to make sure you don't have the slide stop go onto the slide, which can also scratch it. So let's bring that slide back to the disassembly, or in this case, the assembly notch. Make sure everything's lined up. So I will push up and in just like that. So nothing got scratched. You will often see a lot of these military 1911s have those scratches because people put them together incorrectly. We will now push the slide forward. I'm going to go ahead and put the safety on to ensure the slide will not come back. We will take the recoil spring plug. We will insert it into the pistol. Now here you have to be really careful because this is going to be under pressure. So when this goes into the gun, you're going to have to use your finger, push that plug down, put the barrel bushing wrench on it, and then once everything gets aligned, you should be able to turn that barrel bushing and align it with that recoil spring. In this case, that recoil spring plug is actually in the gun just a little bit because of those tight tolerances, but once everything is lined up, if I take the safety off and rack the slide, it should put that plug back even with the bushing. And it looks like we are good. All right, so there we go. So that is all back together. Let's put the magazine in the pistol. Of course, check it for function, and we are good. So that is a complete field strip and reassembly of a Clark Custom Long Slide 1911, and information on how to date these pistols and to make sure they are authentic. So let me know if you have any questions, and do you find this pistol as interesting as I do? So, as always, thanks for watching.